evening, everybody, and welcome to the Ladies Table Talk. We're here at the Kingdom Life Fellowship Church here in Fairview, Texas, 885 State Highway 5, 75069, and we're having a Ladies Table Talk. Today, I have a couple of young adults with me. We usually have just some ladies and myself, or just some ladies. But today we have these two young ladies who are a part of the young adult ministry. I'm Donna Edwards, and I'm glad to meet you and greet you and welcome you here in streaming live. Also welcome you to the World Wide Web, welcome you to Facebook, and start your watch party and watch us today as we talk about social injustices. And also, we're talking about racism. This is a hot topic. And so I'll give my views today, and these ladies will give theirs as well. Today we have Jessica Edwards.
Hello, hello.
And we also have Liz.
Hello.
Liz, say your last name.
Eguadobi.
Okay. So there you go. We have Liz, we have Jessica, and we have myself, and I'm Donna. And we're glad to be here so that you can join in. If you have any questions, you can send questions. We can view them, and we can talk about those questions later. So right now, we're just going to delve right into this thing because we believe that there are some social injustices, not only now, but there has been for so long, such a long time. A lot of them have been just covered up and just hidden away from the public's view. But because of video cameras, because of the police cameras and car cams and all of the different videos, now we're seeing a lot of things. They're not hidden anymore. They're open and in our faces. And we just want to talk about those things. And then we want to add the Word of God with it. What does the Word of God say about your neighbor? How do you treat your neighbor? How do you treat one another? Who is your neighbor? Is the police officer your neighbor? Is someone of a different race also your neighbor? So we'll discuss how we are handling these social injustices, racism, prejudice. I know it's myself, having grown children. Of course, I have encountered some of these things before. But I just want to ask you, ladies, have you all ever encountered a social injustice or racism or prejudice?
Yes, I have. And it's crazy because it's happened more than once, and it's been in situations where you wouldn't think that it could happen so easily. So one of the times I think you see it more so in service and like food industry, retail industry, things like that. What I have seen is as a server, and coincidentally, it's at a very old-fashioned restaurant. So I feel like though a lot of people have reason to act a certain way, or they have the freedom to treat you a certain way and with no consequences. So I was a server before, and you can just tell from the table, you can just tell the energy that you get from certain people. And they treat you a different way, and I was ignored, I didn't get compensated fairly, and it was all because I feel of my race. And you don't get that with everyone, but I feel like there's definitely a vibe, there's definitely energy that gives off of certain people. So that was one instance, and there was another, a late night, and it was a Middle Eastern woman, and she was getting angry. Me and my friends were trying to calm her down because she was dealing with someone else, and she ended up calling us N-words, and we almost got into like a huge fight. All of it is just a whole lot, and you just honestly see, I think now you can see people behind that closed door. You can see people acting as they truly want to because they feel like there won't be any consequences, and it's crazy. It really is.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you were going through that situation?
I kind of felt hurt.
Right.
Yeah, I felt hurt because I didn't do anything I felt to receive that treatment.
Right,
You know,
right.
so at what point do I change my demeanor, or what point do you need to, or they need to change their demeanor for me to get treated fairly? So I just felt like I felt helpless.
Yeah.
I felt.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's very tough.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned about, you know, in the food industry, it's definitely something that is witnessed quite often, especially when, you know, you go to nicer restaurants. You do tend to see a difference in treatment of service and providing of that service. And it's interesting because, of course, everyone that comes in the door is looking at the same menu, paying the same price for the same food, and yet, you know, you can walk out the door having two different experiences.
Right.
And so it's just not. It's definitely something that needs to be addressed, and can definitely make you feel lesser than. In addition to all that what Liz shared, an incident that I can think of was one that happened rather recently, kind of around the time when COVID first started. My husband and I were at the grocery store, and I was in the section in the produce section, trying to get some zucchinis. And there were maybe about like 10 zucchinis left. And you know, we're in COVID, so people are acting desperate and things like that. But in this particular time, I was standing directly in front of the zucchini, and I grabbed and reached for the plastic bag. And while doing so, this Caucasian lady reached over in front of me and just started grabbing zucchini after zucchini after zucchini. Keep in mind, I said there were only like 10.
Right.
So by the time, and I'm standing there and I'm kind of like looking at her, and she's literally like reaching across my face. It's almost as if I was not standing there. And, you know, I feel like we, you know, especially as women, because we get that stereotype of being the angry black woman.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
You know, so I feel like we have to, a lot of times, find ourselves trying to swallow and like keep calm and de-escalate. And so in that moment, I had my bag literally open, and I was just standing there, and I looked at her, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, were you wanting some of these?"
Of course. I'm standing here.
I'm standing directly in front of it. So by the time, and I think in order, like when I looked at her, I had to like reach at the same time, like I'm trying to go for the same thing, you know, and we need to, you're not the only person in the store.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And all I wanted was like a few, and of course she went right back and got the rest, but it was like, you know, be conscientious of the fact that, you know, if you're standing there, I'm not going to reach in front of your face to grab something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And we know that racism is, it can go both ways.
Definitely.
You know? But one thing about it is that I believe that so many African Americans have been hurt so much, and hurt turns into anger.
Yes.
And when you have a government that is supposed to be fair, and you have laws, and you have you vote, you know, we finally got the right to vote, you know, and all of that. Well, after all of that, you think that this would go away. You would think that after all of the marches and all of the killings and the votings and trying to get the right people in office and all, that it would kind of simmer down. It's just a big problem that we have, and I believe it is just so inbred. I believe that it's generational. I believe that it goes from one generation to the next to the next. It might skip another, you know, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, as time has progressed, you know, there have been small victories.
Right.
And for other cultures and races outside of the black community, they see that as like, oh, well, you got this, you know, and they think that that's enough. Because like there was a comment made previously, you know, I don't recall the issue at hand at the time when the comment was made, but Mitch McConnell made a comment about the fact that, well, we elected a black president, as if to say that they were making strides to appease the black community, and it was like, that's not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We're grateful for that. We're very much humbled by that experience, but that did not answer.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of covered it up.
Yeah.
You know, what the real underlying issues were, and it still kind of is like, it's stinging to this day, because even when he took office, there were comments being made that they were determined to make him a one-term president.
Right.
You know, from the jump.
Right. I think it's by the grace of God. You know, God says this is time.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the appointed time, and
Absolutely.
we will have this president. Now, I think that he was a very good, outstanding, very knowledgeable. I think he had humility.
He did.
He listened.
He did.
You know,
And
he
that's why
listened.
other leaders of other nations loved him.
They loved him, and he did receive a Nobel Peace Prize. And I believe that people in other countries were acknowledging that more than we were in our own country.
Yeah.
There was no great celebration. I saw pictures in the media where in other countries they were actually celebrating and rejoicing that he did receive it. But it was very quiet, as if nothing had happened.
As
And
if
so
he
those
didn't do
things,
enough.
those things hurt.
Yeah.
Those things hurt because this man graduated from Harvard Law, it's supposed to be one of our top schools in the nation, but yet, and very intelligent, you know, very fair, and, you know, it was just like he still, no matter how great or good, no matter how many strides you achieve, it still doesn't matter. You're not ever going to be good enough. And we see that it's not recorded, it's not on the video cameras, but we experience it.
Right.
So you have the protesters. Have you all ever experienced a protest? Have you ever been in a protest?
I have been in a protest. Just here recently, the past 2 weeks, I've been to one. And
Which
it was
one
good.
were you in? What city were you in?
It was in Duncanville. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was deep in there, and I appreciated it. I appreciated it because it's one step. A lot of people don't agree with protesting. Let me start there. And a lot of people don't agree with what happens in a protest, which I am a part of that. But I am for the actual act of getting your voice heard one way or the another. I feel like if we didn't protest, we probably wouldn't be where we are now. We would still be silent. We would still, you know, accept the videos that's clear proof of black people getting killed, and just going on about your business. So I appreciate that it does take a step, bless you, one way or another. So I loved it. I felt empowered. You know, I feel like now I got this under my belt. Let's keep going. It's like a train.
Right. What can we do next?
Exactly.
So what is the next step? Because like President Obama said on his little speech, he had a town hall on his own. And did you all watch that? And so he asked the question, what is next? He said, because you can't protest forever.
Right.
It's going to dwindle down. It's
Right.
going to
Yeah.
cool off eventually. But I think it's rekindling itself because every week we're learning more about more people. Did you know that two men have been? Yes, they have
in
been
California
hung.
and LA. Yes.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
And also, there are so many things. There are always so many things that never catches the media. For instance, I just was down in Florida visiting my sister, and they were all telling me about a young student, a young man. He said he was a quiet young man. He never got in any trouble or anything, but yet they found him dead, and the police brought him, you know,
Wow.
it brought this to his parents. And, you know, and now you have two young men that have been hung. So these things are very painful, and I believe that the people who are protesting, I know that I've been telling my husband and people in my family, people in my group, I've been telling them for a while now, this hurts. I'm hurting. I've been hurting for a few years now. I remember back 3 years ago, 2017, Jordan Edwards was killed by a police. 14 years old, honor student, just a very good kid. Played football. They had pictures of him singing in his church choir, and just an all around. The principal loved him. His peers loved him. Well, he and his brothers went to a party, and they were in Balch Spring, and then somebody heard a gunshot or whatever they thought it was. They just went on to their car. They weren't running. They weren't making up a stir or anything. And then the police pulls up, and the police just starts opening fire. Police lied about it. The police did say that they got their car and they put it in reverse and they just revved it up and went on to, crash into their car. But the video cameras showed differently. Well, that was in 2017. That hurt my heart. Ahmaud out in Georgia jogging.
Yeah.
Well, when we're walking, we go inside the houses and they're open, and we go inside and we view the houses, and we're not the only ones, and he was trapped. He was followed and trapped. As a matter of fact, video cameras showed that he had been profiled for about 3 years. It had been stopping him.
Wow.
And slamming him down on the police cars, and just really, well, they got him. And so sometimes, like Trayvon Martin, sometimes these people, they're just set free.
Yeah.
Sometimes the police are set free. You could put them in jail for a year, give them a job somewhere else, and they walk. But our child, our man, our woman is gone, and it hurts. So what happens to hurt and pain? It turns into anger. How much can a person take?
Right.
I have 2 grown sons. One travels, and you have to stay in constant prayer.
Yeah.
I'm praying night and day. They were raised well. They are in the church. I mean, they're not perfect. They do what teenagers do, but at the same time, you never know if somebody who is
Having a bad day.
power
Power
happy,
tripping.
and just hate, racist, or whatever, and they come and tell you that your son has been killed. Well, you go through the courts and you do all those things, but then in the end, they're still gone. They're still gone. So yes, I've protested before, and I felt good about it, but I'm praying.
Right.
And I want to know, what will this all lead to? And does our president care? Does he? I don't see any signal. I heard a lot of things that he said, and I'm just very confused about it. Things that he said about the protest. Okay, so you all talk about, there are 2 different groups in the protest.
Right.
There are the peaceful protesters, and then there are the tag-alongs that come behind them.
Right.
So what do you all think about the protesters?
So, personally, I think that the protesters, I think we're kind of in a state where, like you said, the hurt and pain has just built up over time, that it has now just opened a floodgate of anger. And for someone, I mean, it's just natural behavior, for us to respond. If you're constantly getting hurt and beat down over and over, eventually you're going to get frustrated and angry and upset and want to start to fight back. And I feel like we're entering that point in time where we are really doing that again, but on a larger scale. And I agree with Liz that, the protesting is wonderful as far as driving the message. Of course, looting and burning down things, of course, you don't want to see that, especially if it's happening to, Black-owned businesses,
Right.
things like that, people
Right.
who actually, are trying to make a difference in
Right.
the community and give back. But I think that it's imperative for us to kind of remember the focus and remember the message and continue to speak towards that and encourage that to be the limelight, because the media will be quickly, will be quick to want to, point out, well, this destruction is happening over here, but it's like, but there's also mental and emotional and spiritual destruction that you're doing to a group of people.
Yes.
That really needs to be addressed.
Right.
And so, I mean, I am for the protesting. Of course, as mentioned, it won't go on forever. As much as we want to, as much as when we've seen it in the past, unfortunately, we've seen this story play out before, where we've had a
Rodney
police,
King.
Yep.
Way back then.
Right.
Yes.
Way back then. Yeah. And then it fizzles out and fades. But I think that the next step for us is, of course, to engage in our communities. We have kind of talked about this, with our young adult group, about making sure that we're voting, of course, not just for the major elections, for president, vice president. We're talking about even all the way down to who's on your school board,
right.
wanting to make sure that you know who those individuals are. And because there are a lot of positions that go unopposed, where people just skate through, and they're constantly in that position, and you don't realize how their presence in that role continuously can actually affect why the community hasn't actually progressed along further than necessary. So making sure that we're kind of becoming engaged, and it's going to take work on our part, because that information may not be readily available. It's not like plastered on a billboard, like, hey, town hall meeting happening, so on so and such and such date. We have to do our research, and we have to make ourselves known and visible.
We have to be intentional. We have to. And, the days of, I'm tired, I worked hard, you have to remember those who protested back in the time of Martin Luther King. When we first started protesting. And then, what do you all think about people of different races protesting along with us?
I think it's good because it doesn't take only us.
Yeah.
It takes more of a mass to make a change. And if it's only us doing it, I don't think we'll get as far as we could in the long run. Because it's going to take people sitting at a table where we're not allowed to speak for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like a continuous evolvement of the community, whatever race you are. I feel like if you're on the side of justice, then it works for me either way. It's just hard because the same people who are trying to be for us are the same people who are against us. So you kind of have to see who is being real, who is being legit, who is being authentic with their actions, and not just doing it for a trend. Because I think that's what's happening now.
Really?
A lot of companies, a lot of people I see, it's just a trend. It's just so I don't get caught out, rather than this is how I actually feel. I'd rather be in the mix than not in the mix for the moment.
Yeah, because they could get boycotted.
Yeah.
And that was the big thrust of the protest back with Martin Luther King. Let's not ride the bus. And so when you're touching the pocketbook, then there is a big change right there. And so it's like, I do appreciate, the first one I saw was Ralph Lauren. And I woke up and I was going through my email and I saw something from Ralph Lauren, a letter from Ralph Lauren. And I really did appreciate it. How do you all feel right now as we talk about it? Do you feel any emotion, or do you feel?
I feel I've kind of had like an array of emotion.
Just sitting here?
And just how everything has progressed over the past few weeks. Now I do feel encouraged that this issue has been brought to light, and that it's not being put under the table anymore. Of course, I do see that there is still a road ahead that needs to be traveled, and but I'm encouraged that we are beginning to pick up the energy and the know-how of what we need to do going forward. And then, of course, with us, with other races, you know, partnering with us and becoming allies with us, you know, we're able to kind of start to have a real discussion about what can we tangibly start to do to try to get this message home. You mentioned Ralph Lauren. I saw the post last week from Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, where he publicized a letter that's a Caucasian user of Amazon, customer, sent him, because when you go to Amazon's website, there is a post at the top that speaks to and says that they are, you know, partnering with Black Lives Matter. They believe in it and so forth and so on. And this person just completely was not on board with that.
Wow.
And he felt that, you know, he could address Jeff Bezos directly and tell him that, you know, because you want to support them and all of that, you know, we're no longer going to, you know, utilize your website. We're no longer, you know, we've been avid customers for years and, you know, so forth and so on, you know, kind of speaking highly of like their relationship, as if that one customer, as widespread as Amazon is going to make a complete difference, you know, as far as like the well-being of that company for one. But the fact that he felt like he needed to say that and felt like his voice would actually change, you know, the thought process behind why they did that, you know, was very, very cocky on his part. But I love Jeff Bezos' response because he just publicized it and put it out there. And he said, you know, you are one customer I am more than happy to lose.
Wow, yeah. And we're seeing more and more of that. And we have to give people credit. We don't know their inner feelings if they're just doing that so that they won't lose customers.
Right.
But you have to give them credit. At least they did speak up, and at least they said something.
And at least they're starting to hear.
They didn't have to say anything at all. So, did you mention how you're feeling at this moment? Even as we talk about it?
I'm still kind of fluttered. And I'm fluttered because I know we're not done. And I know there's still more to be done. So in the past, I was literally mad for 3 days straight. And I knew that cannot continue. You know, I can be mad, but as long as there's action behind that emotion, I'm okay with that. But I feel like now we need to know that continual movement will be the best, and not sitting and sulking in it. Even though it's been years of oppression, it's been years on years of us going through this. But, you know, we start acting a different way when we sit in madness versus trying to get out of it and move forward. So now I'm still, you know, I may have some few worries for some people, but I know to remove myself from that conversation because I may not be ready to have that. And I think that's the hardest thing for me now is understanding and using God's word to get me through this temporary world, because it's hard. And I have to talk to them, the young adults, often. Like every time we get on, I'm like, y'all help me, because it's so hard to try to be spiritual and close to God in such a crazy world. And you know, we need help. We need to help each other. So if we're going to be in this madness, let's try to bring each other out so we can get out of the madness and not stick in it. I think that's my hardest part. But, I mean, it's tough.
It's hard. It's difficult. I heard one young lady that was a protester. She said, I'm protesting because I don't want this to happen to me. And she says, I believe one day that this could happen to me or to someone that I love. And I'm tired of it. Well,
I think that's the frustrating part, because when you see people that don't get it, people that are contradicting like what the true meaning behind all of this is, and they're trying to steer it into a different direction, it's like so frustrating, because you're just like, it is so hard to understand.
Well, it's ingrained.
It truly is, and we are beginning to see how deeply ingrained it is, because people are literally responding in anger towards it. Like seeing videos of like white men approach young ladies just because they're holding a sign. Like you go and
Yes, I've seen
snatch
that.
someone's sign out of their hand just because you don't like what it says. Like how many times have you gone to a football game or somebody is cheering for another team that is opposing yours? You don't go and attack them just because they're going for the other team. It's like it is so deeply like
Rooted.
ingrained in them that
Right.
it's just like
And they've been doing it for years.
They've
so I
been
feel
doing
like
it for
they can
years.
continue doing it, and there's no repercussions. I think that's where we are now. We're mad that there aren't any repercussions, and people aren't taking accountability for what they've done. We can be pulled over for not for a signal,
right.
and we're Sandra Bland, and now she's dead.
Mhm.
Versus you being on camera murdering someone, and you get to go home. It's
Yeah.
just
But you
It's
get to keep your
different.
life.
right.
Keep
Yeah.
your career.
Yeah.
You got your life.
Yeah.
You go home to your family. Now, I understand that, is it the man that was killed at, was it a Wendy's? He was shot in the back?
Recently.
Yes, in his
Mhm,
car.
in
Yeah,
Atlanta.
I understand he has 4 children.
He mentions his children too. I think he was saying that it was one of his daughter's birthdays the day before. The
Yeah.
very day before.
Yeah. So then, you're talking about, you want to ask why so many black families are dysfunctional. Well, I think all families of all races are dysfunctional. But you look at what's happening. You're removing, ever since we've been here, they've been pulling the man out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The man has been pulled away from the household.
Yeah.
And this
Day
is just,
one.
throw him in jail, I'm not saying everybody in prison, some of them belong there, but look at the numbers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot tell me that one race is so much better than another.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes we have a double standard. Sometimes we turn our head away from the truth.
And it's apparent when we see incidences involving shootings, mass
Mhm.
shootings,
Mhm.
where they always want to assess the mental state
Right.
of the shooter. And it's never when you see when you see this person, they're like, well, he was troubled, he had this going on, and they speak to the mentality of it versus just that person just was mad and angry and they just
Right.
acted out of
Right.
that.
Mhm.
And then it's like when they see us, it's
That's
just
all you see.
there's no consideration for
Right, right.
how did this person get here? What was their life like? Their circumstances that could have, led them to this, and try to rehabilitate that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just like you did something wrong. Okay, you're just one less person on the street.
Yeah. So how do we deal with this as a Christian? I guess we're dealing with it. We are Christian ladies, and we're dealing with it the best that we can.
Mhm.
So when we look at the counterpart, when we look at those police officers, and then we say, are they Christians? Do they believe in Jesus Christ? Do they believe in the commandments and the Word of God, what it's teaching? I was talking to a friend of ours today, a Caucasian guy, and you just have to laugh at him. He just does things, and he says things that are racist. and his son he's been off to university, and his son is very intelligent, and he said, my son always tells me now that I'm a racist, and I don't understand.
Is he saying it and not knowing that he's saying it, or?
It's just deeply inbred in him.
Okay.
And so, the things that we can say are harmful to other people,
Yeah, right.
and we don't. Sometimes I think some people just don't know any better. Like,
True.
just like black people.
Yeah.
They just don't know any better. You should have known better.
Right.
And I'm not going to give you a pass this time because
Yeah.
you should have known better.
Yeah.
But the disparities that we're looking at, the numbers of people that are being killed opposed to 0 over here, or maybe just a handful, maybe 3 or 4. If we can find 3, then we're really doing well.
Right.
But then this is a weekly thing, week after week.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more. So what would you say? Because God is going to give you the opportunity to talk to your Christian counterparts. And what are you going to say to them? What do you think? Or are you just praying about it?
Yeah, truly, we have to remain in prayer, and it is going to be a challenge on our part because of the fact that, God calls us to forgive as well. Not saying that, we completely forgive and forget the situation, but, for those, like for instance, those who have made comments, misleading comments about what the premise behind the Black Lives Matter movement is, and they're making it about the flag or something like that, and they're kind of taking, and they received, of course, backlash,
right? And
they're taking a step back to kind of try to understand it in the light that it's supposed to be in. We have to forgive and allow that person the room to grow and know, because that's what we're asking for.
Right.
Mistakes that we are making or have made, for it to not equal our death, for us to be given an opportunity to do better and to be seen as equals and to be seen as a human being who is filled with imperfections.
Right.
So that's one thing I truly believe that we have to get, once we're beyond the anger and the frustration and we can kind of let our emotions subside. I think that once we get to a place of forgiveness, because it's true, we're not looking for revenge, we're looking for equality.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all. A piece of the pie.
Right.
And just, 20 acres and a mule, I guess.
I still want mine. Where's my
never
mule,
came. By the way, and people down here in Texas, down here in the South, after the freedom, independence and all that, they didn't know about it for 2 more years.
Yeah.
So it is so ingrained that when they had the Civil War, that families were fighting against families. I mean, they wanted this so badly. They wanted to keep the slave and slavery. They wanted to keep that so badly. So that's just something that we're dealing with. Are you ready, Liz, to have that conversation with a Christian without anger?
I think I can be.
You can be?
I think so.
What's something that you think you might say that you want them to see or to understand, and knowing that they might not be willing to?
I think it's more of an understanding. I want them to understand, or whomever I'm talking to, what's going on, how I feel, how my family feels, and them take accountability of the privilege they have and accept that you have it so that you can give a piece of the pie, What would I say? Honey? Anything. But I think it'll be in the state of mind that I am now. I'm more so going towards peace. So I don't think, I would try not for them to allow me to get angry. Because if I get angry again, we're at the same place, and we're going to be fighting fire with fire. So, honestly, I
Nothing
do think...
is accomplished.
Exactly. Yeah. They will understand where I'm coming from. I think I would be very calm about it, but I feel like it won't do any good, honestly, because I can say what I'm going to say, they'll say what they say, but they'll still continue to do as if they've been doing. But I think it'll take something... it does take those small conversations to have with people to understand. But I think it's going to take more than a conversation at this point, because we can talk all day. And I feel like the same thing with Black people as well. We can be on social media, we can have these conversations, these table talks, but if it's not reaching the right people, we're at the same stage, But speaking to myself, it'll be a tough talk, it's going to be a necessary talk, a step forward. I'm always about a step forward in progress, so I think that'll be good. I just hope that the words are taken to heart and not just, whew, okay, I had that combo. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. And we have to be knowledgeable. We have to read.
Absolutely.
We have to understand. Now, I understand, ladies, that for the vote that's coming up, they're changing how we vote so that I'm understanding, I don't know if you all have heard, that they're going to take the titles off of the officials who are running for office. You know, if you're a Democrat or Republican, you know, no, they're not going to put your party on there, so you just have to. Now, that's just something I've heard, so I don't know if that's true or not. I want to ask you all about Black Lives Matter. What does that mean to you? Do you agree with that term? I've heard some black people say that they don't agree with that term. You see people now on Facebook or, you know, my husband showed me these two guys, brothers it looks like, they were really adamant about it, and they were agreeing that, you know, it's all a big hoax. What do you feel about Black Lives Matter? Should Christians say that Black Lives Matter? What about the other lives?
I mean, everyone's lives does matter, but right now we're talking about Black lives.
Yeah.
And one thing I really love about it is you can't put an address on Black Lives Matter. You know, you can't go to someone's house and, okay, let's kill these part of people because y'all are doing all the speeches, you are having all of the protests, X, Y, and Z. Black Lives Matter is a movement, not a person. It's not one single place or person.
Right.
And I feel like if we did have, I'm sure we do out there, thank God for them, you know, those activists who are very leading and very out there in public. I feel like if they knew exactly where they lived, how they move around, which I'm sure they do, but, you know, in this specific scenario, you can be assassinated, you know, versus Black Lives Movement, you can't kill the movement. You can kill a person, but not the movement.
Right.
So I love it. I'm here for it, you know. I'm going to say it till the day I die. It's just, again, progression in the right steps.
Yeah.
So, Jessica, you do believe that all lives matter, right?
I definitely believe all lives matter, but in this day and age that we're living in right now, the issue at hand is centered around oppression in the Black community.
Correct.
And so Black Lives Matter is bringing to light that very issue. It's not to say that anyone else's issues are, you know, lesser than or diminished, but it's like right now, this is very prevalent, and we are speaking up. We as a Black community are beginning to speak up, and we are emphatic about the fact that our lives, our Black lives, matter in this world, in this culture, in this time that we live in addition to your own, because other cultures already feel entitled to a lot of things, and they don't necessarily see that same entitlement being extended to us. And we are demanding that entitlement as well, as far as that opportunity to, you know, go to a very prestigious, you know, college and not have it be based off of our athleticism or, you know, talent, but our academia, our knowledge base, you know, and really give us the opportunities and the chances to help our community and then help others, because our community is filled with a lot of talent, whether it's in the medical field, in law, what have you. We're very talented, and we of course want our voices heard. We want the same opportunities, and we don't want that to be. We don't want our lives and our circumstances to be ignored and belittled.
Yes, and I agree that all lives matter, and I respect all lives, and I respect all races. You know, I'm a school teacher, so I go in there, and the thing is acceptance. I pride myself on being fair,
Right.
and not just helping those who look like me,
Right.
but to help everybody. I pride myself on that, and I try to teach that to my kids. But all lives do matter, but like you're saying, we're focused right now, and we do not need to allow something to distract our attention.
Absolutely.
Yes, all lives matter, and yes, we love all people, but right now, this race of people
Exactly.
are being so, it's a double standard,
Yeah.
and now it's overt. It's in our faces.
And then their
And
faces.
yes, it's open to the whole wide world, and we can kill you. And what is being said, it's being portrayed that we can kill you and in the public's eye and walk away and nothing happens. Now, if anybody is listening and you do not know that, that is what we feel. We feel that you can kill us and walk away, and it doesn't matter. To me, that's what we are saying. We are black people. We love you, and we're thankful for those people who are standing up for us and are compassionate and are godly. And some of them might not be godly, but they understand true fairness in this society of ours. And they're agreeing and saying, yes, you do matter. Your life is worth living and having equalities and having true justices along. Why not allow us to live? Why are you killing us? Is it because you're afraid that we really are equal, that we really do, we are intelligent, and that we can become as great as God is allowing us to become? And so it seems like there is a prejudice and a fear right there. And so we just want you all to understand that we love all people because we are ambassadors of Jesus Christ. We love God and we obey his commands. Okay? Our children might make mistakes. We might make mistakes just like everybody else in this entire country and world. But we believe that we should have the equalities that everybody else have. We should enjoy those things, and we should have equal opportunities to compete, or give them the opportunities. It opened the door, and then when we're rising up and doing pretty good, then, we get, our children are killed. They walk in the churches and they kill us, and so we don't know. And right now, it's so much pain built up in these you all are millennials. Yeah. And they're saying no more. And I'm right, I protested. I tell you, in my youth, I have protested, silent protests, all kinds of things when I was away in graduate school, I don't think my parents even knew it. But to stand up for what is right. And to, what time you have over there on yours, sister? Because I can't. I guess I should. So as Christians and as believers, we have to look at the patriarchs in the Bible. We have to look at those who stood up for Paul.
Yeah.
Paul stood up for once the Lord converted his heart.
But it was needed.
It was needed because he was in agreement of murder of the things that he did not, those things that he opposed, the things he did not agree with.
But it goes to show that
the
God
Lord.
can even use him.
It took the Lord to change his heart.
God can
And
even
so,
use him to make a significant impact.
And he was zealous for what he did.
He sure was.
He was very zealous. And once the Lord changed his heart, he was even more so zealous. And he was running for God then. And he walked we went over there to Greece, and we were going through his second missionary journey, and they told us that he had walked on foot about 1,300 miles. Oh my God. Starting churches and give. Now, let me tell you what I learned while I was over there. Socrates, he had to drink the hemlock. Socrates had to die, but one of the reasons he had to die is because he believed in, and he was trying to teach that there was one God. So, they have the polytheism where I have learned over there, they had, back in those days, they had about 300 different gods. God of the sun, God of the harvest, God of this, God of love, and, but Socrates was saying, let's bring it all together. There is one God. Right. And he had to die for that. And Paul did, he converted churches, and they hated him for that, but we have to continue.
Yeah.
to send the message. So as we get ready to close out, ladies, I want to ask you all a question. Let me put my glasses on so that I can see. I want to ask you all the question, what message would you like to give to the community?
I guess a message, of course, is to embrace the time that we're in. Because, you know, even for myself, I had to ask God, you know, when COVID first started, like, knowing that we were about to bring a child into the world, I was like, you know, God, why now? Like, why give us this chance to, you know, bring life into the world when there's so much death around? And then, of course, you know, I had that moment where it was just like, why not now? It was a reminder to myself that God is still breathing life in the midst of situations that seem dead or seem, you know, grim. And again, we're now in a time where we are really beginning to see our eyes are being more open, and our hearts will have to do the same. And that is my prayer for our world, for our community, is for God to do what He did to Paul, to change the heart and to really bring us back together, and to truly embrace one another for who we are, which are all His children. Because we are created in His image. He didn't say you're created to look like that person or that person. You're created to look like me, is what He said. And that applies to each and every one of us. So that even more so proves and furthers the Black Lives Matter, because it's like, you can't go around here killing God's children.
Right,
so,
right.
God's
so
curse.
right.
You can't do God's people like
You
that.
can't do God's people like that. And not expect to be dealt with.
Right.
That's the other thing.
Right.
So it does frustrate me, because I remember watching, like, day after day after day of the Trayvon Martin trial. And when it got to the end and, you know, George Zimmerman was let off, I was just like so broken.
Here it goes again.
And here it goes again.
And this was a child,
Yeah.
and there is no remorse.
Yeah.
But we're running out of time. But Liz, is there a message that you would like to give? I mean, and this is for blacks and whites, believers and non-believers as well. Is there just one strong, solid message, or a few messages that you want to,
I believe
or
in
a scripture you want to leave with?
I believe that, or the message would be the change that you want to see, in a nutshell. Because even with having a conversation, even with, you know, telling someone, hey, this isn't right, and moving forward, or going out and voting, or going out and starting this organization, or being a part of a town hall, or supporting black businesses, I feel like you need to be what you want to see, because someone may be looking at us and say, hey, if she can do it, I can do it, you know, and keep it moving. Because I love that with Obama in his 2 terms, like, it gave us an idea, it gave us hope to see something that we may not even believe that can be done. So within ourselves and in our community, just being or showing and moving forward something that you may not even think is imaginable, you know, just continue blessing.
Yeah, very good, very good. And I think we have to, I agree with Dr. Martin Luther King. The message has to be given in love and in hope. We gotta because, you know, with my age and being around as long as I have been, notice I didn't tell my age.
We've seen it.
You know, I've seen a lot of things transpire throughout the years, and I've seen my parents talk to us. They had to teach us to survive. When you go out there, be quiet. Shut your mouth. Well, you all, this is a new generation. We made some strides in life. We came through segregation. You went to school with Caucasians, with white kids, and became friends with white kids. Now there are interracial marriages, and it used to not be. That was
Right.
against the law.
Yeah.
And so we see all of this going on at the same time, you know. So now you all are more verbal, and you're speaking out. You're saying no, no more. I have gone to school with these people. I know them, you know, and so it's no way that you can. And so you can begin to see the injustices between as you go to college,
Yeah.
as you go to these jobs and all, and then it's just not fair. So we have to pray.
And I would also say this one thing is that do not for a second think that God is silent on this issue.
Yes. Good.
We may not feel like God is in the midst or that God is up to something, but God is always intentional, and He is always going to utilize a circumstance, whether it be a part of His permissive will. We know that He is up to something, and we have to continue to trust and exercise our faith that He's going to bring amends to these circumstances and times that we're living in.
So you said we have to exercise our faith. So what do you mean by that?
Trusting in Him, trusting that He sees and He hears the cries of His people.
What else can we do besides trusting?
I mean,
We got to pray.
we gotta pray.
He told us to pray without ceasing.
Mhm.
Well, with that being said, we are completely out of time.
Yeah.
And I believe that we could talk on and on
Right.
because this is a current topic, and it's a hot topic, and it's so current that it's happening while we're speaking here at the table. So we'd like to thank you all for joining in with us. If you have any questions, if you have any comments that you can make, you can send them to klifefellowshipchurch.org. Okay, and you'll see that on the screen. But K stands for Kingdom. So we are the Kingdom Life Fellowship Church here in Fairview, Texas, 885 State Highway 5, or you can say 885 Greenville Road, and it's the same. And we'd like to thank you. If you'd like to make a contribution to our church, and you know churches are shut down now and trying to slowly reopen, and if you'd like to make a contribution, we are helping with food pantry, we're helping people in need, and doing just running the church, trying to keep the churches open just like people are keeping their businesses open. If you'd like to make a contribution, go to klifefellowship.org, and as you go in there, you can go to Givelify, you can go to PayPal. What else do we
Cash
have?
App, I think we have.
What's
we now
that?
have Cash App.
Cash App. We have Cash App. They use all those things. I write a check because I don't want to pay the 3%. But you know, this is the way of life for them.
Yeah.
You know, so thank God for all of these things. Thank God for this technology because it has brought forth to allow us to see God has used these technological instruments and equipment so that we can see what's happening, so that they can see themselves. And I'm talking about those who are racist. And not all white people and foreign people are racist. Not all of them. There is good and bad in every race. And I know that ours are shown so much. Well, he did this. Well, guess what? It's going on one way or the other in all races. One type of crime or the other. You know, we might steal or rob a store, but somebody is stealing in the stock markets, and you know, just all kinds of things. I heard that Toyota, you heard about Toyota and black customers, so up in the Bronx.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, it's everywhere, and it's one way or the other, but Jesus is the answer. We have to love our neighbors. We have to forgive, and these kids are saying, we've forgiven so much, and we have held this hurt and pain in for so long. And so we're just making our statements right now. But if you'd like to give to the Kingdom Life Fellowship Church, you can go to klifefellowship.org, and you can give through any of those engines. And then also those platforms are available for you. And if you do not know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, we want you to read John 3:16 in the Holy Bible that says, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, for all of this stuff that's going on. And if you just believe in him and receive him in your heart, confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, he says you shall be saved, and you can receive eternal life, so that when you die, you don't have to just deposit that body in the grave, but your soul, your spirit still lives, and you can be with God eternally with us, because we're going to heaven, and heaven is real, everybody. So we just thank you for joining in with us in the World Wide Web, with YouTube, with Facebook, live streaming. Thank you from all the ladies that you'll see up here at different times. Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. And thank you for joining in and allowing us to come into your hearts and into your homes. You all have a wonderful day. We thank God for you. Bye now.